All right, and we are live. Hope everybody is having a good weekend here. It's Sunday here
Yeah.
in the U.S., and I usually like to take Sundays off, kind of relax a bit. One day I try to not do too much. Usually don't do much as far as recording video, and I usually don't go to the gym on Sundays. I just try to have a day where I just lay around, and I sometimes don't stay at the house, though. Usually I'll go see some family or friends or something. They don't see much of me during the week, so. So what's everybody been up to? Anybody got any Linuxy stories they want to share? Because there's always a distro hopper or two that show up for these.
Well, I don't have much to share since I did plan to do a stream this week, but I was sick, so I skipped it and will do it probably tomorrow.
Yeah,
late day my time.
That's the one thing about live streaming is sometimes life gets in the way, especially when you have them scheduled. I don't think I've ever scheduled a live stream and I've had to miss it. I've come close one time.
I actually didn't schedule it. I was just planning I had a plan for this week since I've been planning to do it, and then I got sick. I basically was almost out of voice, and so that would be a fun stream.
It's always one of the things I wonder about the people that do nothing but live streaming on things like YouTube and Twitch. It's like, how can you have everything scheduled and, life never get in the way? Like you lose power or you lose internet or you get sick or you can't always be there when you say you're going to be there. That's why I pre-record everything.
Well, many of them, they have specific stuff set up, and they try to keep that schedule. And for most time, it works for them because they put that much equipment into actually making sure streams actually go live.
Well, I know why they try to keep the schedule. Yeah, I mean it does help with building an audience if somebody knows exactly when and where you're always going to be streaming.
But you can always just pre-record the stream and play it back.
Yeah, that's kind of lame though. It's like the YouTube Premiere function. I mean, it's okay for some things, but for most content, yeah, that's.
Morning, Barrett.
Hey,
Ben, where you been?
That's an obvious question, don't you think?
Yeah.
There's one program out there who streams 4 or 5 hours in a row regularly. It's programming. Yeah. I couldn't.
I know a few of them.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those that go 5-6 hours on a stream on a regular basis, and I don't know.
at least it's not like me when I once watched a 12-hour stream.
Yeah.
Well, it was a fun stream. It was watching how SpaceX moved a rocket from one place to another.
Yeah.
And that thing goes like a few kilometers an hour, and we watched it for 12 hours.
I thought it was a one-person stream, like a marathon.
It was a whole team of people. Yeah. They did not space flight. They did a news organization around space flight and stuff like that. Well, and they had a 12-hour stream just of SpaceX moving a rocket from the production facility to the launch pad.
Well, Michael Tennell, Tux Digital, once did the 9-hour live stream of his. And, he often live streams. Well, he'll live stream his recording for This Week in Linux, and then he'll go back and edit it into a proper show. And sometimes the live recording will take 2-3 hours or whatever. He did a live stream one time where he just decided he was going to stream for however long he felt like it, and it ended up being like 9.5 hours, which I think the only reason it ended up being that length is YouTube has a time limit on a live stream. They actually cut you off after a certain time.
I believe that stream, when I watched the rocket, it was 12 hours because they didn't want to renew the stream, create a new stream, because it was 12 hours was the cutoff time.
Because YouTube doesn't want people streaming 24/7 and sucking up all their bandwidth. So yeah, they have that limit.
Even though technically many streams are like basically 24/7. Try a 24/7 view of Cape Canaveral port.
Yeah. I know Brian Lunduke a few years ago, he did some kind of marathon stream of several hours in length, and I can't do that. I 2 hours is about max. I mean, at some point, you do have to get up and go get some food. You have to go to the bathroom on occasion. How do you sit in a chair for 9 hours?
Well, most of them go for bio breaks and stuff like that.
Yeah. What about the Twitch streamers that Twitch for hours on end? Surely they got to.
I don't know how they do that. That just
many of them.
Do you ever see them get up to have to go pee? Or I mean,
yeah, many of them go. Actually, one of my friends decided one time to do a 24-hour stream.
Yeah.
And he couldn't hold on. Basically, he fell asleep after like 14 hours.
I mean, if I planned it out way in advance, I could do something like that, a 24-hour stream where I could pre-record little bits of stuff for meal breaks and things like that, where I had to get up and then I just put a fake DT on the screen for a minute.
What he did, he basically asked us friends for help, and we basically filled out. Like, we were always, at least one of us were always with him doing something, and the only reason he fell asleep was because in that stretch of time nobody was with him. Yeah, he said that he just felt so alone he couldn't even bear it anymore.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do a DT 24-hour stream, and if I need like a 30-minute lunch break or something, I'll be like, well, here's Big Pod explaining, snap packs for 30 minutes. And then if I need to sleep, I'll be like, well, I'm going to turn it over to Ben for a Gentoo installation. That way I can get a good 8-9 hours of sleep.
Yeah, you could have a 24/7 for a week show with that kind of breaks.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Or an LFS install for that matter.
Oh, Linux from scratch, yeah. You're not still playing with that, I hope.
That would be probably the only time DT would get himself an LFS install on his channel.
Yeah, I don't like doing things that long, though, not on a stream.
No.
Because you're not going to get anybody.
Well,
people will tune in and watch it in bits, but...
Look, when 10,000 people watch a rocket move from one place to another at 5 kilometers an hour, you will get people watching how you install LFS.
Yeah, they weren't really watching the stream the whole time, though. They had it on.
It would really be like watching paint dry.
But most people don't really watch streams. They have them in on the second monitor, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I watched the Venice Canal, Rialto Bridge, built around 1500. Every once in a while, I'll go down there. You can see the gondolas going through and the ferries in the dock. So I like to do that. It's relaxing after a while. I do a lot of streams like that. Shenzhen, the bullet trains in Fukushima, you can see them going by at 300 kilometers an hour, things like that. So I watch a fair amount of streams like that, intermittently.
I was actually one time thinking what would be the best stream possible. A black screen with total silence.
Yeah.
The relaxing stream.
That's a John Cage's performance.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you stream, though. If you're streaming something that's not real content, YouTube may take that down. They may even strike you for it.
Yeah.
I actually had a strike one time for something like that, a test stream through OBS. Years ago, OBS had a test signal button in the program where you could just send a test signal to YouTube just to prove that the stream would work if you went live. And apparently YouTube did not like people using that. So they actually gave me a 90-day strike from live streaming one time for hitting that button. Now I appealed it and they reversed it, but it's like, hey, I didn't even know what the button did. It's like, don't hit that button anymore. OBS removed that button shortly after that, though. I don't know.
I one time got a copyright strike off of a picture that I drew that I used in my own video.
Lol.
Wow.
Oh, sure.
Well, that happens.
I got a copyright strike one time for me playing the recorder. Not kidding.
Yeah.
It's like it's a music
But-
strike. That's like what it's me playing. It's not.
Well,
What were you playing?
Music copyright is weird like that, though.
Actually,
Yeah, but
it's
that was
all
that was
copyright weird.
yeah, that was
Problem is, what were you playing? If you were playing some actual song that has music sheet that is less than 50 years old, then
no,
technically
it was a
it's
classical piece. It was it was
then
it was
Oh.
it was a false
And you
strike,
get-
right? It was
that was a false strike
Yeah,
directly.
yeah.
Catchy that a lot of people don't understand. Like copyright is all the same, no matter where it is. It's music, not music. It's all the same.
Mhm.
50 years. If anything is 50 years or younger, you can do it. Basically,
the
Look,
the sheet music is
yeah.
public domain. And what people don't
Yeah, that-
realize is, hey, why don't you just play some of your favorite classical pieces as far as recordings? Well, those recordings are copyrighted because
Yeah.
whatever music label puts out that recording and hired that symphony to play that, they own the rights to their recording. I can't play their recording. I can play
Yeah.
my recording, my personal recordings of me playing whatever, but I can't play
Yeah.
somebody else playing that same piece.
Great resource for understanding copyright is probably the Tom Scott's video about copyright. He goes over YouTube, especially YouTube-based copyright, really well.
I've read
YouTube's
somewhere.
copyright system is not broken. The world's is.
Yeah,
Well, everything
the
should
world
be
is broken.
according to Richard Stallman, all artwork and things like that should be Creative Commons anyway. It should be one of the
No.
16 different Creative Commons licenses that confuse the hell out of
No.
me. The
Okay, so
differences.
this is the
I
one
actually-
thing that actually frustrates me about Richard Stallman when he's talking about like doing that with media and not software.
Mhm.
How do artists deserve to be paid
Yes.
Yeah.
for the content that they create?
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, if that picture is licensed under Creative Commons with a distributable license, then at what point is that artist paid?
Never.
Just the first
Well,
time.
I
that's
can't
it.
speak to how artwork works because I'm not an artist, but I can tell you all my videos are licensed under a Creative Commons license. Anybody can use them.
Yeah.
I still get ad revenue from YouTube, right? I mean,
Yeah, but
I can
how
still
can
play
you do
ads
an
on the
ad
video, even
revenue
though
on
anybody could download
How
the
can you
video.
add revenue on a painting?
Right.
or on a
Well, you
piece
have
of
to.
shit music?
There's different business models, but the
Yeah.
idea that you can't make money with something that you license
Yeah.
under.
No, I'm saying that you can
a
make
CC
money. It's
license.
just that if you make it under a Creative Commons license with distribution allowed, then what's the point of making the art to begin with? Because you're only going to get
Yeah.
paid for realistically the first time somebody downloads that image.
Same thing with books. The book that Stallman did years ago. It's not he didn't write it, but he was interviewed for that book. What is it? Free as in freedom. I forget the actual author of that book, but Stallman
Yeah, I
made him
think so.
license it under a Creative Commons license. So, I mean, it's a book, you buy it in stores, somebody gets paid for it, but it's licensed under a free license.
I personally think that the art and stuff like that should have some sort of copyright, but not as long acting as it is now. I think it should be.
No, I think in the U.S. we have like something like a 95-year thing after creator death.
Yeah, at least 50 years. But
I read somewhere recently that the x86 CPU copyright's going to expire this year. So
no, it has already expired a couple of years ago.
Then why are they
Couple
still
of-
building those?
well,
Because they
Because
are really
everything works
popular,
on x86.
and because
Oh,
everything
I
is
see.
already x86.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Reality
see.
is, and I'm not gonna go into debate whether ARM or whatever the hell the new architecture that will pop up is better, because
The
Sorry,
future is
reality.
risk because there's no copyright patents that you have to pay for.
reality is at the end of the day, everything runs on x86 nowadays. Software is for
Yeah,
x86,
truthfully.
and x86 is a balanced architecture. For example, ARM is only good if you put bunch of single-purpose devices beside the processor. Otherwise, ARM is only useful if you have everything in a browser.
I
And
just-
even then,
Just real
it's
quick
not
here,
hardware,
Big Pod.
hardware. browser.
I need to thank Mitchell in the YouTube chat for a super chat. I don't know what the little emoji that says noob means. I don't know if he's calling me a noob or all of us a noob. But thanks for the super chat, Mitchell.
Was that Mitchell Valentino who
Of
did
course.
that?
Yeah, that's the one and only Mitchell Valentino.
Oh, cool.
Right. Everybody in the Linux community knows Mitchell.
I don't.
Yes, of course.
He's everywhere.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
I don't
everywhere.
know him. But then again, I don't really watch a whole lot of Linux community stuff.
Yeah. Well, you see a lot of the same people in all the Linux communities. Yeah. Like Ben here. You see Ben on every Linuxy live stream you can pull up.
I'm what they call the Gentoo man.
Yeah, he's trying to convert everyone to Gentoo.
Everyone and their mother.
You will never convert me to Gentoo.
DT and
I would.
And
I wouldn't dream of doing it to everybody, but I once converted EB to Gentoo.
Yeah,
that was a fun one.
Yeah.
You know what? I know he tried to use Calculate Linux a couple of years back, and it was funny because he was trying that out on his main production machine. At the same time, I was trying it out on my main production machine. I didn't realize he was doing it too.
It on his. He once tried it, Derek, on his Optimus laptop.
Yeah, and I had problems with my installation. It didn't go good. Within 2 weeks, I had to hop to something else because I had a broken installation after an update. Xorg broke on me. It was just a mess. I was like, you know what? I'm going back to Arch. And then I see EB's rant video where it broke on him too after an update. Maybe the same thing happened to him. And it was so many curse words in that video. I can't believe I get a strike on my video for playing the recorder, but EB's videos are fine.
In which video he doesn't curse? Tell me that first. In which video he doesn't curse?
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I stay on Ubuntu.
Yeah.
What are you on?
Fact that it's Ubuntu Mate. Besides the fact that I'm one of the developers of it, their multi-user I stay on it.
That's understandable.
It's the best. Two, I develop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I didn't do an Arch-based system, I'd probably do Ubuntu or just straight Debian.
Yeah.
Because they work.
Well, that and as a content creator, it just makes sense to be using something like Arch because the package availability just from the AUR alone is well worth it.
Well, I can compile anything. I can get anything to work on Ubuntu. It's not a problem.
But if you've noticed, like the reason why snaps and such are so popular among like the desktop user case is because people don't want to compile.
Yeah, but
apparently compiling things is hard. You don't want to compile your window manager.
AUR is also compiling, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's not compiling.
Well, the smart people put binaries in the AUR.
Yeah, not many, but reality is AUR is compiling.
Speaking of compiling things, I need to go get the laptop. I'll be right back.
Oh, gracious.
Well, if you're on compiling, I could say that I actually compiled a Linux kernel for Windows. What is it called? Subsystem for Linux. I compiled a kernel for that.
So, you guys see me wave this thing around like every single month.
Yeah.
But today, on the Arch installation on this thing, I got an update for the System 76 firmware manager. The binary does not work. You have to use the Git build available in the AUR. It took me 7.5 hours to get it working.
Oh,
but that's why you package it. That's why you package it as a binary. That's like when I mentioned. Was it the Brave browser or the LibreWolf browser?
LibreWolf.
Both of them are in the AUR. Well, actually, I think Brave now is in the main repository. Yeah. But you can either compile it or you can grab the binary for them. And for some reason, people were trying to compile LibreWolf when I made that video, and they couldn't understand why 4 hours later that package was still building. And it's like, no, that's not. You went and got the wrong package.
not even that that long. Let's just say that the Chromium-based browsers take like 10 plus hours to compile. That's nothing. That's why you should use a Snap.
Yeah, I'm using Chromium binary on my
Gentoo?
on Gentoo. Yeah, I
n-
know it's
nobody,
stupid,
nobody
but,
compiles the browser on Gentoo. Nobody does it.
Yeah.
Hell,
Nobody should.
I'd rather.
About Firefox.
Yeah.
If you
I
think
have
Firefox
built-
is bad on Gentoo, wait till you get to Chromium. That's even worse.
You know, both
I
of-
have a system that builds Chromium every once in a while. A good thing is that is a server, so I don't have to look at it.
I will
Yeah,
say, for
I
those,
mean-
I'll give you guys a tip. If you do a source-based distribution and you're worried about compiling one of the big browsers, most of them are available as an app image.
Yeah.
That is true.
So,
Well, yeah. I mean,
No Snap.
my tip for anybody who does a Gentoo install: go with as many -bin packages as you can. For example, LibreOffice, Thunderbird, if you use it, Firefox, and Chromium, because honestly, those are some of the apps that I use. And I have seen how long it takes. I did once, and only once, a Chromium full install. I let that run overnight while I was asleep because I was not looking at over 20K lines of code. No way.
Actually,
That's literally how
one,
many lines. Hold on, Big Pod. That was literally how many lines of code it was to compile Chromium. I'm like, good night.
actually, once I looked into the how to make Gentoo repositories for e-builds, and actually they have a specific instruction how to make a binary repository
well,
for
Yeah.
Gentoo.
I've actually
Actually,
looked.
it's a thing.
I've looked into the same thing. I've thought about, wouldn't it be neat to create our own Arch repository? And it's not very hard.
Actually, Derek,
Right.
Not that hard.
Actually, with Storm OS, I actually have a GitHub repository where I keep all my specific AUR packages
Right.
for Storm, and that I actually use on that distro. So, and for all of us in the call who are wondering, I am actually the developer of Storm OS, the main guy.
But StormOS is Debian based, but
No.
you're the Gentoo guy, and you're talking about using Arch.
No, Storm OS is
Well,
Arch-based.
no. Storm
Oh,
OS
Storm-
is a
oh.
Arch system that I made.
Oh, I found I was looking at Storm Linux. My bad.
There-
Distro Watch,
this
good
is
quality
Storm
website.
OS, not Storm Linux.
There's probably been other projects with that same name that are no longer.
Yeah.
that are no longer developed. Yeah.
But you're the Gentoo guy, aren't you?
You can't.
I've dissed him so many times, Josh. It's not even funny.
Oh, okay.
You can't
Well,
try to
yeah,
pigeonhole Ben into one distro. He'll hop occasionally.
You see, Josh,
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
have a very high as heck Asperger's issue, and
I mean,
for me to stick to one distro is like a needle in a haystack, basically.
I ran Debian 6 stable on 17 plus devices for 6 years. So
Yeah,
It's just-
that in me is almost like holding me by a thread.
oh, okay.
Hey guys, I got to
Yeah.
mention this comment here in the YouTube chat. Ken says, DT in the vid chat, please lower your lights. It's blinding watching due to all the shiny domes.
I'm sorry. I don't have a front light, and I have an ultra wide monitor. So every time I open up a new screen like this here, I use a white theme because I hate myself like that.
Why?
So every time I open up a new tab, it really lights me up, and I apologize about that.
Why would you do that?
My window is next to me, and even if I shut the blinds, it literally, I can't do crap
Yeah,
about
but
it.
Ben,
Sorry.
you have a full head of hair. I'm pretty sure they weren't addressing you on this.
No. Yeah, they weren't addressing me probably.
I mean, if all else fails, I do have the red hat. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it doesn't work too well
Yeah,
with the
well.
headphones.
Yeah, and turning on the light doesn't really help, so I just shut it
Yeah.
off.
Speaking of Red Hat, by the way, I no longer have an existing Debian installation in my house.
Oh,
Everything is now RHEL based, except for like the computer I'm talking to you guys on right now.
Right.
People told me
Wow.
to install Arch.
You've gone full
Yeah.
corporate, huh?
I have gone full corporate. I've got the Red Hat, and I've hold on.
Out of pure curiosity.
And if you're gonna get the Red Hat, you have to get the blue fedora too.
Nice.
Are you running RHEL or running the CentOS stream?
The server that's in that little closet thing there is actually running rel proper.
Nice. That's one of the distros I actually haven't tried, Josh, is rel.
If you've installed CentOS, it's literally the same thing as rel, except rel you have to log in with username and password before you can use the repositories.
Okay. I have tried to install CentOS, but my hardware did not. At least on this computer, which is a Dell with a Broadcom Wi-Fi chip and graphics.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
It's because they use the 4.18 kernel, and they're not really intended to be running on laptops to begin with. So they don't really have a whole lot of the firmware or header packages available for laptop drivers.
Well, my tower also has a proprietary Broadcom chip inside of it too, because it's running a card that pains me to say is actually meant from
chat.
OS.
I have a blue hat and a red hat. Please get it right.
I see. Well, unfortunately, the card that I have in my tower, unfortunately, is best ran in Mac OS, unfortunately. So I can't really blame myself for having that kind of a problem.
Well, I have about 4 different web servers, I think, serving up some of the websites and the Mastodon instance and the Gemini instance and all of that. And 3 of them are running Ubuntu. Why? It's just so darn easy, right? The Ubuntu server is just...
Right.
I've been
asking, Derek.
I asked Linode if they were willing to allow Red Hat as an installation option. In the meantime, currently my web server runs Debian.
Yeah. The one that's not running Ubuntu LTS server is running Debian. So.
Well, yeah, because Debian's amazing, and you should all be installing Debian for your servers.
Yeah.
I use Ubuntu for my servers.
Sometimes.
Well, you develop on Ubuntu. Of course, you're going to use Ubuntu.
Yeah. But a lot of times for me, it's just I go and I'm playing around with something, how to install something, on a web server. And I find their official documentation. And whatever distro they're using in the documentation is usually the one I just go with. If they're using Debian or Ubuntu or CentOS or whatever, I just go with what they use.
I mean, that makes sense.
Doesn't matter. I use containers anyway.
Yeah.
I do everything in containers.
I've actually been moving away from containers as of late.
Desktop in a container.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oop, that's a bit of a hiccup there.
Yeah.
But
it was my URXVT. Just I hit the down arrow key too many times.
Oh, okay. That's why you don't use URXVT.
Well, you can turn the alarms off.
It happens no matter what terminal I use.
In your X resources, I think you can turn the alarms off. With I forget the setting. I haven't used URXVT in a while, but I'm pretty sure you can turn that alarm off.
I'm looking at my .x resources right now, Derek.
I mean, it probably wouldn't be in there unless you added it, but there's a setting.
I didn't. I'm seeing scroll TTY key press equals true, and it's not showing it, so I don't think I put it in there.
That's why I use Alacrity or Mata Terminal.
Oh, Alacrity, that's a good one.
Let me pull up my X resources because I think I actually have it turned off. By the way, Vim is horrible to use with the Dvorak keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm using. I'm just using a laptop with a generic
Vim
keyboard.
is hard to use with any keyboard, but okay.
Yeah, but so many people have asked me because they know I like playing with keyboards like the Ergo Docs, and I need to buy me the new Moonlander and play with it. But they're like, "Hey, you get these cool keyboards. Try different layouts. Try Colmac. Try Dvorak." And I'm like, "No, I can't." Because
I got bored one day and this keyboard was just $5 and it's the Dvorak keyboard, and it's like, you know what? I need to learn how to type anyway, so I'll just get a Dvorak keyboard and just force myself to learn how to type with it.
When everything you use, tiling window managers, everything I use uses HJKL for the motion keys, and they're gonna be completely boogered up when you switch away from QWERTY.
Well, honestly, the biggest frustration has actually been using keyboard shortcuts for copy paste so far, because it's a two-hand operation. Because
well, you might.
The one control key is over here, and C and V are over here.
Well, instead of Dvorak, switch to Colmac, because don't they put the C and V keys in the right place for people for copy and paste? They left the C and V where you would expect them, so you can control C and control V.
Yeah, I probably should be doing that, but I'm a savage and I hate myself in this one scenario.
Well, in my opinion, the best keyboard layout is the Quartz layout. That's the European version of QWERTY.
If HJKL are all in the home row, then it's okay.
They're in the same place.
Okay.
Or might be shifted for one. I'm not sure. At least I have all the right letters on the keyboard. I have the Slovenian letters, and
I
also
actually
have
did
some other
find.
letters.
I actually did find a Vim RC config that will actually sit there and translate everything from the QWERTY layout to the Dvorak layout, and just change all the shortcut keys from QWERTY to Dvorak.
You know what? I was thinking the same thing in Emacs. I bet there's Emacs plugins that would just automatically fix everything for you without you having to.
Yeah. The problem with that is I also like to SSH into a bunch of stuff, so I have to do that with a lot of different Vim RCs.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Hey, Josh. I still have the System 76 lemur from like way long ago, back when they shipped with Ubuntu 16.x.
Yeah.
And it's kind of showing its age. And for my birthday this year, I'm turning 30. And I was thinking of getting a brand new System 76 computer.
Talking about this thing? Well, let me tell you one thing. The keyboard layout is garbage, but the keys are actually good. So, for an example...
mine is actually the silver
Yes, that
one
is a Fedora background.
Yeah,
but
cool.
For an example, like on the arrow keys, you have your page up and page down key right there. And I hit those accidentally so many times that it's gotten to the point where it's just like,
here, let me show you mine.
I just decided to change them.
Well, that's cool. You guys are buying the System 76 stuff, but isn't Lenovo now shipping Linux on their ThinkPads?
HP as well, and
they are. And honestly, when I bought this when they first announced it and first made it available for purchase, which was before Lenovo. If I waited for Lenovo's to release their laptops, I probably would have bought the ThinkPad.
Because if you're worried about the crappy keyboards and stuff on some of the other stuff, the ThinkPads are pretty good.
This one.
Just remember that if you buy your System 76, you have to get your Melvin.
Oh yeah.
You have to get your Melvin.
Yeah. Mine is the old one that shipped with Ubuntu 16.04 Unity on it.
Nice.
I actually still have a computer that runs Ubuntu 16.04 with Unity. I still like Unity.
Yeah, me too. But unfortunately, 16.04 is no longer gaining mainstream support.
After April. We still got 2 months on that.
Yeah.
Oh, good God.
April is the end.
I mean, I don't see the use in using a old as heck distro like that.
No.
I still use it.
A lot of people basically just don't update to the newest because why would they? It works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, this computer actually sits over there in my kitchen, and the only thing that it's used for is just a recipe book.
Well, I mentioned the other day that, on that video where I talked about people not updating their machines, I talk to so many people in the community and they give me their issues on their machines. And I'm like, well, what distro are you running? Oh, I'm running Ubuntu 13.10. It's like, wait, what? Like, people will actually come back with stuff like that.
Those people should probably update because 13.10 hasn't been actively supported since 2014, something like June or July 2014.
Because it only had 9 months of support. 9 months in 2013.
Maybe October. Yeah,
right.
9 months.
Why is somebody bringing up memory usage in an Arch Linux system in the YouTube chat right now? I understand that we all love our minimal systems, but memory usage is a terrible metric to be using.
Yeah, that depends on so many things. Like, what are you installing on your Arch system or Gentoo system or whatever it happens to be?
No, it doesn't matter because Arch takes the philosophy of unused RAM is wasted RAM.
Yeah, and also, what file system did you install? I mean, there's so much that affects that stuff. Yeah, the whole RAM thing, unless you're comparing apples to apples, it doesn't make sense because unless they're running the exact same suite of packages, you can't compare one distro to the next.
The speed of RAM is important, and so many things that RAM is one of the
hardware.
Worst.
Right.
And then, if not RAM, then they come to the metric of disk space, which is again another horrible metric. which I hate, really much. Why do you care about how much
Well,
disk space?
The disk space argument, if you're talking about things like a game that takes 100 gigabytes of space to install, I can understand that.
But we won't talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which takes 250 gigs to install. Let's not talk about that.
Like I get when we're talking about huge programs like that, that's one thing. But people are like, I can't install Xmonad because I have to install 400 megabytes of Haskell just to run Xmonad.
It's 400 megabytes. You can get flash drives that have 30 times that amount of storage.
Yeah. And you only have to install Haskell one time, right? If you have Haskell on the system, then you can install, I don't know, Pandoc, because you needed Haskell for it too. You can install all the other programs that need the...
What's the then saddest part is that person probably has 2 terabytes or something more hard drive in there.
Yeah. But the compiler is 400 megabytes and it's too big. I won't put that on my system.
Or the bat is a bloat.
Oh yeah. Because Rust, right? I had to install Rust.
Everything is static compiled in Rust. It's few megs in size.
Speaking of Rust, the Alacrity terminal, people have told me it's bloated because Alacrity takes so long to compile if you're doing it on a source-based distro, which I have compiled it from source once on Geeks, and it did take me 45 minutes to compile Alacrity.
Good God.
But what does that got to do with bloat? It's just sometimes compiling software takes a long time.
If you want to complain about compiling software, have you not compiled a kernel?
Right. Or compile GCC if you really want to.
Oh yeah, if you really want to compile something, compile GCC because you need to compile GCC before you can compile the kernel anyway.
Right. Yeah. Compiling GCC is like a nightmare.
But it's fun.
One thing I really hate about people who talk about the as little space as possible, and those people don't even know that anything that is lower than 4 megabytes will use 4 megabytes on your hard drive or an SSD, because that's how blocks are made of. 4 megabyte blocks. If it is less than 4 megabytes or multiplication of 4 megabytes, it uses anything that is rounded to 4 megabytes or multiply of 4 megabytes. That's how hard drives, SSDs, and storage works.
Yeah, since the last time we did one of these chats, some of the videos I've made here in the last month, I did a video about LeftWM. It's a tiling window manager written in Rust, and it's...
Yes, I've slowly fallen in love with that one.
And it's very much like Xmonad, very much like Qtile. It's very similar in function and feel. And I had people complain about that because it's written in Rust, they can't use it because they don't want to install Rust on their computers.
You don't have to. It's statically compiled.
It's like it's just
you
strange.
get Rust already.
Right. And then they're like, well, if I do Qtile, it's okay because Python, it's bloated and heavy, but Python's already installed on every Linux system. I've got to install Rust, or I've got to install Haskell, or whatever it is with... come on, guys. You're taking this.
I mean, before too long, Linux is going to ship with Rust anyway, because there are people submitting Rust patches into Linux.
Yeah.
Well, technically speaking, no system that actually runs Rust actually needs to install Rust separately, because Rust is a statically compiled thing, and everything is inside the binary anyway.
I looked at the Rust binaries the other day, and they're dynamically linked binaries. They're not static.
Right.
It dynamically loads libc. So they develop it on a current system with a new libc and run it on a system with an old libc. They could run into troubles. And also they have each of them have their own dynamic shared library in them. They're not static. You can tell by doing file and then path to the binary, and it will tell you whether it's static or dynamic. And
that is partially correct. Pure Rust dependencies are all statically linked by default into the binary. But there are some native libraries like libc that are usually, but not always, dynamically linked. Right. But that is actually really easy to change. And actually, if you ask me, that should be default for any programming. Statically link everything, because that's how you're gonna get out so many problems.
it's difficult to do. They try doing with Musel instead of Live C.
Yeah.
But
But
bat
that's a
but bat is
very-
bloat
that's a
because it
very
has syntax
complex
highlighting.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
I programmed in NIM about a year ago, and I created an app, and I looked at it just the other day, and it's statically compiled, and I don't know how I did it. I recently redid my IDE with a whole new set of compiled procedures, and they're all dynamically linked. So I'm going to have to go back to see how I created a static binary through NIM about a year ago, because that's what I want. I run it in an app image, and you run it in an app image, you want it to be self-contained. So I'm going to take another look at NIM and see if I can do that again.
yeah, I've been a couple of days ago. I went through and looked at all the Rust programs installed on my system because I did that video about a month ago of 7 Rust programs I thought everybody should take a look at, and those were things like BAT and RipGrip and FD, EXA. And then I missed some things on my system that were actually written in Rust, and I either forgot or I just never knew they were written in Rust. The new shell is written in Rust.
Yep.
Isn't the OOL shell? I haven't really tried it. Isn't that written in Rust?
I'm not certain.
There's a couple of different shells. The Ion shell from Redux OS, I believe it's also written in. Like a lot of the modern shells that people are starting to put out there as alternatives to things like Bash and ZSH, many of them are being written in Rust now.
Rust is awesome.
Yeah, like that's really everything is being written in Rust now.
Yeah,
It's
the
weird.
only thing that really disappoints me about like Rust programs is that a lot of them are still targeting Xorg when they should be programming instead for Wayland. Like LeftWM, why is it an Xorg window manager? Why is it not intended to be a Wayland compositor? Because Xorg is all basically end of life at this point.
Well, you have to make it work with Xorg.
Yeah.
Everybody's using Xorg right now. You
You
can't
don't-
make it work for something that nobody's using.
Yeah. And
I mean-
Wayland is still so much not ready.
You could make
Wayland will never be ready.
Yeah, I mean that's
It's not even ready for general usage.
if
That's
you
the problem.
if you want people to actually use your window manager, it has to work with Xorg right now.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just watch how
want-
much problems there are.
Okay.
with Wayland support. I'm just going like, okay, this is stupid.
At some point in the future, I would just love to be able to install a Linux system without any package having the phrase X anywhere in its name. That's really what I want.
Well, that's going to cause some problems for me because Xmonad, I mean, X is in the name. So I don't know what they're going to do with this whole Wayland situation.
On it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I fully expect like the Xmonad team to eventually like start working with the Waymonad team and maybe revive that project.
No.
If that's even going to happen.
And I thought the awesome window manager guys were starting to work or at least get a roadmap for Wayland. And you think the awesome guys and the Xmonad guys could get together and maybe help each other out.
Well, I'm still waiting for Mata Desktop to be Wayland supported, and that won't come for a while. That would be fun experience.
Yeah, any GUI nowadays it's just going to take forever to do anything.
I know I'm gonna have fun with that thing. That's gonna be a really fun.
I'll be honest, I'm not as worried about the display server. I know a lot of people are wrapped up in we need Wayland now. I mean, Xorg kind of works. There are other things that I would like to see get done much sooner than Wayland. For example, PipeWire. I'd like to see
PipeWire will come with Wayland.
Yeah, because we've got to get away from Pulse Audio. Pulse Audio needs to go before Xorg.
I thought PipeWire was the front end for Pulse Audio.
Yeah,
it does use it, but it's.
I listened to something like, why the hell didn't they are developing PipeWire if it's just a front end for Pulse? Basically, you don't get away from any issues of Pulse. You just add something else on top of it.
Right, it's kind of a hack on Pulse and Jack. It's kind of. It takes what those already do and just tries to fix their problems for the most part.
Yeah. It doesn't try to actually create something new. It just tries to use old by managing it. it's a sad.
Yeah, but we need a new audio server much sooner than we need the new display server.
How about we just get an audio server that actually works?
Well, we've never had that.
Yeah.
That's why we need it, right?
Yeah.
We've never had.
How about instead of just coming up with a new audio server, how about we just make one of our current ones actually work reliably?
Or the one that actually works reliably needs to make sure it actually is easy to install. That's an easier feat than making.
How about we just make
both work.
also actually good? If we can make also good, I'll be happy.
That's old technology. We might as well go back to
It's in. It comes with the kernel.
OSS or right.
I'm okay with one layer, but not 2 layers like PipeWire wants to do.
I think everything will be all right if you got the right people working on it, and you don't have people like Lennart Pottering trying to push his own vision of turning Linux into Mac.
Hey,
right?
Lennart is doing the good Lord's work. He created systemd because we needed a good init system.
Well, he's one of those people, though. There's a lot of people out there in Linux that try to make Linux into Windows and or Mac. And I'm one of those people. We just need to be something different. We need to be the alternatives to Windows and Mac. We don't need to try to be Windows or Mac.
Well, I'm just waiting for the day we're gonna get systemd-kernel-d.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, systemd is already almost as big as the kernel, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's the kernel size now? I know systemd is well over 1 million lines of code now.
Don't go counting the kernel because you're gonna get lost at a couple of million, I believe. That thing is big.
I think the kernel is actually the base kernel image is actually larger than systemd.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but systemd is catching up. But systemd's an init system. Why is it more than 1 million lines of code?
Because it's more than an init system.
Yeah.
Systemd is a great operating system. It just needs a kernel and a GUI.
But run it is an init system, and it's like 200 lines of code.
Yeah, but run it is not a server. It cannot manage my home folder. It cannot manage my network. It cannot boot my system.
It can't do cron jobs.
It doesn't even have a GUI.
It can't do.
And look, I don't even care how many lines of code that systemd has. Does its job? Yes. Does its job well? Yes. That's the end of the day what I need, and that's if it does that well, that's good, and that it does.
In the chat, somebody mentioned Pear OS tries to be like Mac OS. I remember Pear OS from many years back. Isn't it a dead project now, or are they back to life?
Damn.
Why would you use Adobe Creative Commons? Why would you use the Adobe Creative Suite
Cloud,
in
yeah.
Wine?
Can
not?
you? I don't know if all of the programs work
can't.
because I know Photoshop has always been problematic in
You
Wine.
can't because
Otherwise, people would use it.
Okay, so all the Adobe products use system layer commands, which Wine cannot do. That's why we have so many problems with anti-cheat in gaming.
Right.
Because video games are using system commands nowadays.
Yeah. You should. You cannot run Creative Cloud versions of.
No, just go download Windows 10. You can download it and install it for free, and you can run it for free. You just can't move the taskbar position or change your desktop background until you give Microsoft $100.
Well, the problem with like doing Windows in a VM, it would
No,
work.
don't even do it in a VM. Do it on hardware.
Yeah, you'd have to.
If you're using Adobe, you have
Right.
to use it on hardware.
Right.
Well, you could use in a VM with hardware pass-through with additional GPU, but
Yeah, because there's no way you're going to do video editing in a VM. Right.
Yeah.
There's no way.
No.
yeah. Well, I want to say this really quickly. I used Kden Live for a while, and then I had to switch to during the summer. I had to switch to Premiere Pro because editing videos for school. When I switched back to Kden Live, I had a feeling like I was instead of using a knife, I was using a rock. That kind of a difference it is.
Yep.
It's really night and day.
I've actually
That's
gotten so used to Kden Live, I actually can't use Adobe. Because I look at Adobe Premiere and
I actually can't use
what do all
Adobe.
the buttons do?
Yeah, I actually can't use Adobe because Adobe refuses to release a version for Linux. So unless I change my operating system, I can't.
I mean,
This is the reason
I
I
have
stopped
Windows
using
installed on
Kden
this.
Live. This is
I've
the
tried
reason
it.
I stopped using Kden Live and now use again the DaVinci Resolve, because at least it isn't a stone. At least it's a dull knife.
Yeah,
I'm not
Adobe
using
is one of those weird companies that just refuses to ever release any software for Linux.
Well,
they just flat out refuse.
I mean, it makes sense for
they
them.
have too little of. They would have too little of audience to even try and.
Yeah, the
release.
audience is so small and their code base is so massive and so specific to Mac OS or Windows that it would basically take a lot of effort to port it to Linux to begin with without relying on a wrapper like Wine.
You know what? It wouldn't take that much effort. It already works on Mac. I mean, really, they could create a Wine wrapper that worked if they wanted to.
Yeah, but then they'd have to change how the underlying fundamentals of it. At least Adobe Premiere would work, because I know 100% for certain that Adobe Premiere actually does talk to the Windows NT kernel directly.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, then they would have to do crap ton of stuff with the different what they're called codecs to make them work on Linux, because not all codecs work on Linux they support, and it would be a whole giant mess.
Yeah, because you got some licensing issues to worry about.
Don't want to deal with, because it's too much work for too little of a return.
Well, I will say, as a Kden Live user, I've been really happy with Kden Live in the last year and a half.
It has gotten so much better.
It is so stable. I can't remember the last time Kden Live crashed on me. I mean, used to, it would crash on me like every couple of weeks. I would have a major crash. I can't remember the last time it crashed on me. It's been so long. It's been several months at least.
Okay, so that server right there is running Debian. I actually have a running GUI system running on there with Kden Live. It crashes more on Debian stable than it does on Arch Linux for me.
Well, if you're on Debian stable, you're running an older version of Kden Live.
Well, yeah.
The newer versions are better. Or get the app image.
The idea of that is just like it's just crazy that I'm using the native package versions, and the one running on Arch is the one that's stable.
Yeah, because the newer ones are a lot better. They fixed a lot of bugs in them.
I know.
If you're running a stable distribution, you just got to run the app image for Kden Live. You want to stay current. So, and I've used the app image, but I use the Arch native package too. Both work fine. I don't see a difference in either one of them. The only minor difference is if you run both side by side, the GUI looks a little different as far as the window decorations and, but other than that. I know some people get upset when they run flat paks or app images and like the window decorations or there's pixels that are off, I don't worry about that as long as the program works. Or it doesn't respect my theme. That's one I hear all the time, as if like that's a major deal breaker for a program. It doesn't respect the theme.
Yeah. Well, to many people it actually is. Well, people want their system to look uniform.
Well, I know some people have OCD. Where like the slightest icon and pixel and button that's off, really sets them off.
I've got like 3 Qt applications, and I took my dear sweet time to learn how to make my own custom Qt theme, which, by the way, I don't recommend because GTK is so much easier.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get my Qt theme to match my GTK theme perfectly, and I still haven't been able to achieve that.
Yeah, I would believe you.
That said, the only Qt applications I'm not using for very long anyway, besides Kden Live. I'm booting up Kden Live, I'm editing my video, and then I publish it if I ever get around to doing that, because I don't do that very often. And then I'm using Mumble, which I'm not even looking at the application anyway.
And Kden Live does this a really neat way. If you're worried about the theming in Kden Live, within Kden Live itself, you can set a theme, because they have a menu system that has like a dozen different themes in it, including Breeze and Breeze Dark and all of that. So you
Actually, the one package which you cannot get teaming to work on the system is Kdenlive. I get a light team no matter what I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. And that's on a Ubuntu Mate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kdenlive just had a release not too long ago, and it was a pretty big release. So you and Josh are going to be at least one major version behind.
Oh,
Well,
I'm on Arch right now.
I am on a.
Unless you're doing the app image.
I have what you call it. I am on the Hirsute, so I'm not even on a stable release of
Okay.
Ubuntu because, well, I'm a developer.
Right. He's on the beta. Or it's not an official beta yet. Huh?
Well, it's official alpha. It's development release.
Okay. I didn't know they had already put that out there for the public, though.
Well.
Or are you just doing a daily build, or?
Daily build, yeah.
Yeah.
I always run daily builds. Who cares for beta? Beta is, you know what they call beta. Next day it's already outdated.
Right.
Beta totally useless.
Just install a rolling Rhino and just be fine with it.
Because anyway, no matter what, next day beta is already outdated.
Yeah, but
and
it's just for people to check out. It's
160 packages every day updated.
I mean, that just tells you the aggressive update pace that Ubuntu is using for their nightly builds.
Yeah.
Well, are they? What are they using? They using the unstable branch?
Yeah, I think they use
for the interim releases. Or are they doing testing? Okay.
I believe it's testing.
I imagine somebody in the Ubuntu development chain is actually using Debian Unstable somewhere, but the distribution itself is developed on testing.
Yeah.
Well, I thought they would be a little more aggressive on the interim releases since they're only 9 months support. Go ahead and link that thing to Sid and see what happens.
The point of development releases is more to the interim releases is more to put new features in that will then mature till LTS, or at least that's supposed to be the point as far as I'm aware. Like for example, Wayland on GNOME.
Right. Is Wayland the default for Ubuntu Mate as well?
No, not a chance. Not a chance.
I had to
That's
ask.
gonna take a while.
I don't even think there's even been any work to port Mate to Wayland, has there?
That was sort of a joke. That's why I asked it.
No. Well, we're currently preparing to get something together so they can start. Specifically, Martin wants to put a team together to get it started, but it hasn't worked yet. So we kind of planning for not this cycle, but next cycle.
I'm pretty certain that as GTK matures on Wayland, Mate will eventually make its way over there.
It isn't the problem. The problem is just updating it, the fixing and like basically making it work. That's the catch.
And you just start fresh. Might as well.
Yeah.
The problem is the window manager.
The other thing, when you're talking about it'll mature as GTK gets better, Mate's been around for what, like 8-9 years? Wayland's been around for 12 years. It's not like these things started last week. They've been around for a while.
Well,
it's just slow going
on GNOME, the old one, I believe, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly, but it is quite old.
And the problem is too much work goes into a desktop environment that I won't name, but nobody wants to use it, but it seems like all the work goes into that particular desktop environment.
But I like that desktop
environment.
I'm
not going to, we'll just leave it at that.
Well,
I don't know anybody that uses that desktop environment except Josh, but
I don't even use it anymore. But guys, remember, Adwaita is king.
Yeah.
Well, no. Yaru is king, especially Yaru Mate.
No, Adwaita is king because it is baked into GTK 3 standard.
Well, we're introducing a new team for icon team, and and shell theme for the next release. Yaru Mate. The green version of Yaru. It's so beautiful.
The green version.
I like my icon.
No, I should correct myself. The cucumber Chelsea green version.
Wow.
That's the official color.
And we're going to change that beautiful black Yaru theme, and we're going to make it green. Yes, people are going to love it.
Well, it's just where the colors are purple and orange, they're green now. It's still the same black stuff that was black. Just orange, purple stuff are now more or less green in different shades.
Since we did the last patrons chat, I remember on the last patrons chat, we all said we were going to check out some alternative protocols other than HTTP. And a couple of days later,
oh yeah, I broke it.
I decided to play with a Gemini, made a Gemini server. And I know you guys were going to check out various things, but I don't know if anybody got around to it.
Nope.
So I got around to setting up a BBS service.
Well, that counts.
I even had it up and running for about a day. Then I broke it, and then I just said screw it, and I kind of just never.
You mentioned you were going to set up some BBS games for us all to play.
It wasn't games. It was really just like a redistribution of like my blog, and because it's just like it's something simple and easy to set up.
Yeah, because if it was BBS games, me and Ben and Big Pod, we'd be all over that.
I mean, I probably set up games. I still have the image on Linode. It's still there. I just have it turned off right now because I couldn't get it working again. Well,
I did check out, or I did actually set up a server for something internal with WebSocket. So that's a different protocol than HTTP. So that's really the only thing. It was already baked into another program, so I just leave it there.
Yeah, there's so many of these alternative internet protocols. I read up on like half a dozen of them, and the only one that made sense for me to do anything with, just because it seemed so simple, and it kind of made sense. It was already kind of fleshed out a little bit. Gemini is essentially a re-implementation of Gopher, and it's done pretty well. And
in my opinion, nothing will beat HTTP, especially for the common web, the general usage web. Yes, stuff like WebSocket, there is for specific usages. Stuff like RTSP or whatever the streaming one is called, or those are used for specific usages. For general web like HTTP, that I don't think it will be something HTTP will absorb it into our next version of HTTP. Like for example, HTTP 3 will use Quick.
Have you guys used the new protocol that Brave recently implemented? What is it? IFP?
IPFS.
Yeah, the Invincible File System Protocol, whatever the heck it stands for.
Used to be interplanetary files.
Interplanetary, that's it. The Interplanetary File System Protocol. Yes, thank you for correcting me on
First
that.
of all, we need to be in multiple planets to have interplanetary, and
I mean it's a great
latency of that would be horrible. Think that to get to Mars 10 minutes at minimum.
But so many
one
projects are horrible at branding. You got to admit, that is a pretty catchy name. Like, you want to try it out as soon as you see that name.
Well, it is catchy, but it is horrible at the same time.
They took it off their website. I guess they thought it was a bit much, but you'll never see a reference to it on their website anymore.
Yeah, I had to Google what it stood for. I wondered, because you're right. Brave never actually mentioned it in their press releases about it. Nobody wants to say what it stands for, but when you go to the Wikipedia article, it's the Interplanetary File System.
Well, but the latency, that would be a really, really, really fun thing, especially for files, if it was literally interplanetary. Because if you think about it, Mars current connection to Mars, NASA does at 10 minutes. One way, and that's if they're lucky. And that was when they were doing the rover landing, that was 10-minute delay.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get up to 40 minutes.
Well,
And
they
sometimes
should have installed Arch. I mean,
no, it won't help because light travels or signal travels so long. It isn't about
right. I got you.
signal.
Just quickly in the chat, Mr. GFY is asking about IPFS. If not, it's not Brave, is it? It's not a Brave specific project. They didn't invent it, but Brave recently now supports IPFS out of the box on the Brave browser. Like you can go view sites that use IPFS. So IPFS : / and then these weird hash symbol URLs that take you to wherever you need to go.
Well,
That's neat. It's there. I don't know how you go and find these sites though that use that particular protocol. And really, they didn't do a good job explaining why anybody would need to use that protocol. Like Brave didn't explain that really well in their press release about it.
well, Brave uses it to host its decentralized merchandise store.
Right, you kind of get the idea that it's for people that need to circumvent the standard web for some reason.
The point is that decentralized.
If you live in communist China, it'd be helpful. If you lived in communist China,
exactly. But they didn't come out and say that, and that's what I was getting at. Is
you
they
can
didn't
even
want to
download Brave if you're in China without going through a proxy.
You're going to proxy anyway, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, you have to download an official Chinese sanctioned browser if you live in China. You can't use. Can you use Google in China still, or? I know for a while they wanted, or Google was going to create a special Google just for China, which means they censored Google.
Steam actually is testing Steam for China, basically.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because Steam was actually one of the few programs that actually worked in China, but they now made a specific version for China. You can watch a Linus Tech Tips video about it.
Yeah, I'll do that right after we're done here.
He actually made a video about it.
I don't mind watching a Linus video every now and then. Not something I do that often, but 3 or 4 times a year I'll catch one of his videos that seems interesting. Some of the Linuxy stuff is interesting, but most of those, he's not even in those videos. It's the other guy, Anthony.
Yeah.
But
that is because they want him as an icon for Linux in the. Most of those videos are actually not even written
for the more casual audience. Anthony is an icon.
Well, he's the new Linux mascot. We're going to get rid of Tux, and the new mascot's going to be Anthony.
Irony is that most of them are not even written by Anthony.
Right.
Whoever talks doesn't mean that person wrote the video.
Well, not usually, not for big productions like that. You know, they have a team of writers.
Although I do believe that Anthony is one of their writers, isn't he?
Yes, he is. So some of them probably he wrote, but not all of them.
Yeah. I want to know. I do know that they declined my job application.
Really?
But I can. But from what I know, Anthony is the only one who has proper former Linux job, as far as I heard. He was working with Linux before working with.
They have Anthony, who they hired as like a writer / sysadmin.
Sysadmin,
yeah.
He does a lot of the networking stuff.
Yeah, and then they got another guy that's that also manages the servers too. But
Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, he does have a real Linux job now because I'm sure all their servers run Linux at Linus Tech Tips.
Nope.
You don't think so?
Nope.
3 of them still run Windows. One of them runs only one of their servers actually runs Windows Server. The rest of them actually run Windows Professional.
Yeah.
Wow.
For Linus actually likes to do Windows for storage. Because he has that UI and that's the only thing he knows. Yeah. Otherwise, they actually their main storage server, the multiple
No.
petabyte storage server runs, I believe, CentOS.
I think it's Unraid actually.
No.
No?
The multiple petabyte storage setup, because it's multiple servers, actually doesn't run Unraid because that thing doesn't support it. It runs GlusterFS.
Oh,
which
right, that's right.
Runs on top of CentOS.
Yeah, and then they just set up a new one that they're actually running XFS on, which kind of blew my mind because they're real big ZFS shills.
Yeah.
It's like, let's run ZFS on all the things. And I'm like, XFS? What do you mean?
Why would you run ZFS without having some free BSD servers around?
Why would you run ZFS on Linux?
I mean,
I do all the-
ZFS is good.
I've been doing it for about 8 years. I'm talking to you now from ZFS Debian pen system.
Well,
I wouldn't
ZFS
know.
is good.
like I could
But they do
respect
have a
Linus Tech Tips.
server with free BSD. They do have a server with free BSD
I could
now.
respect Linus Tech Tips if they move from those Windows servers to a BSD server, but
They have a BSD server for storage.
their NAS is probably
Because-
BSD.
They've used FreeNAS in the past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
FreeNAS. They have
Yeah.
FreeNAS based backup server.
That's what everybody uses for NAS is free NAS.
I mean, it makes sense because
Well,
they
their
do a
main
really good
storage
job.
server, the archive, what the hell it's called, the Vault, uses CentOS.
Well,
It's
that's a
actually
dead
4
distribution
servers
now, right?
or 3 servers running CentOS. No, it's not that distribution.
They need to
That's-
move to
that's
Debian
people-
ASAP.
That's people who do not understand.
No, they don't need to move to Debian.
That's it to move to CentOS Stream.
Red
And
Hat is
CentOS
free
Stream
for 16 installations.
Yeah.
They should
Just
move
need
to
to
Red
move
Hat.
to CentOS Stream. And CentOS Stream is just as good as CentOS. There is nothing wrong with it. Only difference is that it will not be. Software will first come to CentOS instead of first going to Red Hat and then to CentOS. They will just switch roles. It won't be Red Hat being testing distribution for CentOS. It will be the other way around. Otherwise, everything will be just as stable as it is now.
Yep.
Okay, give me a second here, guys. I'm on ZFS now. I'm going to do a backup of my 200 gig root file system. I don't use rsync.
Wow.
It's going to be
Okay. I will do the same for my for my ButterFS installation. Let me
Everybody
just
take a
SSH into it
snapshot
real
right
quick.
now, right?
Yep, working on it.
I would first have to
started.
install something to do a snapshot of my
Let's
system.
see. I don't remember the ButterFS command for snapshots because I integrated it into the package manager.
Well,
so
you
let me
should
just run
integrate it into
let me-
TimeShift.
so
Well, first of all, let me run an update on my system because we all need to be doing that.
Oh,
I just started it and I just finished. It took about 5 seconds. I didn't have many updates, but the fact is it didn't have to go through rsync through a whole 200 gigabytes to do the backup. And I have an exact clone backup of my system on another ZFS drive on it.
Well, I'm a guy that I have to actually manually SSH into my system because I've yet to actually set that up. I just completed my snapshot too.
I normally don't do full system snapshots. They're just stupid.
I typically don't either, even though I often recommend people, new users, do them.
I snapshot the root partition. The home partition I just sync to a backup.
Yeah, I'm more
I-
worried about
I
backing
have
up
a
my
copy
data.
of. I have
Yeah.
a backup of home directory. I don't have a home partition. I have a backup of it on the same drive, so it's mainly for the reason if I accidentally delete something, I can just get it
Well,
back really quickly.
I can't have a local backup of that server because it's 160 terabyte array.
I have a local backup of
Yeah.
of the laptop. On server, I don't care what happens to home directory; it's empty anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, I do have some scripts in there and some Kubernetes config files, but those get pushed to Git server like that always because I might just reinstall and
Yeah,
who knows how we then try
that's
to
what I
collect
do.
those.
That's why I
Kubernetes
don't want.
config.
I don't worry with snapshots because I'm more worried about my data, and I already have all my documents backed up. So if I do an update and it breaks the system, I mean, 95 times out of 100, I'm going to be able to fix that broken system anyway. So I don't need the snapshot. But if it's something that's going to take me a long time to fix, reinstalling takes 10 minutes. I already have my data backed up.
Yeah.
It's like it's just so
I
quick
put into Windows. At worst, I have to boot into Windows, put a nice little ISO on this USB drive, reboot, and do that 10-minute install, 15-minute install, and I'm back in the game. Just
I
run
don't even have to do
all
that.
the programs
I
I need
pixie
to
boot.
get it. Well, yeah,
The other
I
thing,
should probably do that.
go ahead, Murray.
Most people don't back up their data or their system.
Yeah, that's also
Well,
true.
that's bad. Even if you take snapshots, you need to back up your important documents.
Data should be back up outside of system snapshots. That's
If I back up my system once a week, it takes less than a minute every time to do a complete
actually.
backup.
I do on this laptop. I do, I believe, every hour a backup of my home directory, and I believe I keep basically a backup of home directory keep for 1 day at most.
When I did that update video the other day about the Linux Mint guys telling people to update their systems, and I mentioned time shift and taking snapshots, and then making backups of your data on external drives is often what I do, or I use cloud services sometimes to back up some not that important things. People were like, well, I don't need to do backups. I actually had a couple of people tell me this. I don't need to do a backup because my home directory is on a separate drive. That's still not a backup. A backup is what if that drive fails? Do you have that information on another drive? That's a backup.
And then the most funny one comes from some sysadmin when they say, I don't need to back up my server, I have RAID.
That's not a backup either.
RAID is not backup. It's
I have a cron job that takes snapshots every 15 minutes, then every hour, and then every day, and cycle through them. The other day, I found a busy box statically linked from a .deb file. So I ran the DEB file, and it replaced the current one with the static one. But in the meantime, I'm in Proxmox ZFS. It rebuilt the kernel on me because it uses DKMS, and that's not going to end up in a pretty situation. So I had that snapshot. I just rolled back to that snapshot about 15 minutes earlier, rebooted the system, and I was back in safe to where I was before.
Okay, so I actually remote mount the home folder on all my systems. So like the underlying operating system actually does not matter for whatever it is I have on any of my machines. The desktop that I have right here actually uses a 30 gig boot drive just to boot into a root partition, and then it remotes the home folder that I have running in a solid state array that in my server in the closet. So like it doesn't matter, but because my internet connection is so slow, I can't really take like a daily backup to the offsite. So I have to do instead I do a weekly snapshot, and that takes me like a day and a half to actually run that. That's actually what happens after like these videos. That's when that's scheduled to start. So if we ever go over and I suddenly disappear, that's what's happening because I'm maxing up my upload. But when it comes down to like stuff like snapshots, I don't really do that because while I have that, I use a copy on write file system to begin with, and even though I have the additional storage space available, I just don't really do this. I don't do like the file system snapshots at all.
Why would you do a snapshot on Debian stable anyway? You never get an update.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
But Debian stable does actually get updates.
My root file system is 64 gigs, including my home directory.
Because people like me screw things up. But
Debian stable, their updates aren't anything. They're never going to send you something that could possibly.
Well, that server uses RHEL. That server's on RHEL.
I thought you said that was your Debian server. I'm
no,
sorry.
The Debian server is the web server. You go to my website, you're on my Debian server.
Okay.
I have enough storage for me with 64 gigs, and everything else then it's on server anyway.
Well, that server is like a whole story by itself. Like somebody actually paid me to like be their offsite backup at one point, and then that never worked out.
One thing, a video I made since the last time I did one of these was I switched my graphical email client. I went ahead and got away from Thunderbird, and I found this fantastic Electron application called Mailspring.
Yeah.
And it's pretty neat, Big Pod. I know you love JavaScript and Electron and all of that.
I love Electron, but not JavaScript.
But Mailspring, I've known about them for a while, but they've never been fully open sourced until a couple of weeks ago. They announced that the last component of it that was still licensed under a proprietary license was now GPL'd. So the whole thing now is GPL'd. So I went ahead and installed it and looked at it, and I got to say, it's a really nice email client. For some of the professional features that it offers, you do have to be a paid subscriber. I haven't actually subscribed to any of the pro features, but just as a standard email client, sending and receiving email and basic functionality, it's actually quite nice.
My email client is actually a web client. It's fully proprietary. It's called Google Gmail web client. But also I do have some other emails. Outlook. For example, one uses Outlook web client. That's also proprietary. But we do have one email that uses open source web client.
I knew you would have an Outlook account.
Can anyone guess what web client I'm using for the email that has open source web client?
An open source email client, you would probably be using Geary.
No, it's a web client.
Oh, a web client.
Yeah.
Proton Mail?
No, I host it.
Yeah.
Well, I use Yahoo for my email. I'd like to get off it, but it's impossible because everybody and his uncle has the email from my dentist, to relatives, to the businesses.
Yeah.
You can't get it. Once you've got it, you're stuck with it. And I picked a lousy name for my email address as well. So
I use Nextcloud.
You can't change it. Yeah.
Nextcloud. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have Proton Mail is kind of nice is what I'd use if I had to start over again.
And I have a Nextcloud server, and it does have the ability to integrate your email into it. I've never tried it because I didn't want to do web-based email. I wanted a desktop
That's
client.
the only thing I use Nextcloud for.
Because sometimes I just want to read old emails. I don't want to actually get into a browser or even need internet to go read an old email. I
see no point in having a client installed for email. Just seems wasteful when it's basically emails are basically websites anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense if you have a lot of different accounts too. The desktop client manages them.
I use the webmail client
one
for my
interface.
email service. Because the email service that I use comes from my domain register,
right?
Which it does not actually support SSL over client, so I have to use the webmail.
It doesn't support SSL.
It does not support SSL or even TLS, so I have to use the webmail to have a secure connection to my email.
I would be worried about a domain register that did not support SSL. I'm just saying, putting that out there.
Yeah, run away from that.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Well, it's a domain that I don't particularly care about besides like an email service.
Still, run away from that as soon as possible. Well, when DTU mentioned Outlook, I use Outlook because I have to have Outlook accounts. How otherwise would I access Azure?
Exactly. Yeah. I can't say I've never used Outlook. I mean, I've had jobs where I've had to use Outlook at work. It's okay. Like, I don't hate it.
The web client is okay, and sooner or later, the client, the installed client for Outlook will be the web client. Electron.
The great thing about Outlook, it just integrates so well with Office 365 and Internet Explorer and Microsoft OneDrive. I mean, you get the whole Microsoft experience,
Well, I do use Edge on Linux.
Now you switched to Edge finally?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's awesome.
Well, they don't have Internet Explorer on Linux, so I guess you didn't have a choice on Linux, did you?
Well, I wouldn't use Internet Explorer. I'm not that crazy.
I installed Edge and opened it one time on my system. When it first came out, people said, hey, Edge is available in the Arch repository. The very first day that people noticed that it was available as a package, I was like, let me install it and see if it opens up, to see if it actually worked. It opened up, and the screen looked really pretty, and then I closed it.
Yeah. Otherwise,
Must be an AUR package because I don't see it in the main repo.
no, it's not the main. It's AOR.
Yeah, I could actually open a terminal and tell you the package name since I've got it installed.
I bet it's Microsoft dash Edge.
Is it MS Edge?
Something like that. Microsoft Edge dash dev dash bin.
Dash dev dash bin. Okay, yeah. I knew it was a long name.
That is too long for me to type.
And being an AUR package, it needs to be a binary, so
Yeah.
you don't want to compile it.
You know, this. Otherwise, did you guys hear about the LastPass and that debacle?
It does not affect me at all.
I've never trusted online password managers. I've never done it. I never will do it, and I don't do it for that. I've told people it's like you have no control over this stuff when you have these stored on somebody else's server.
Well, I did use it because why not? It's available on my phone and on my laptop and my anything I log in on, and it is fairly secure since it is client-side encryption and decryption. So basically, what they store is a blob.
Yeah,
I use Bitwarden.
I was okay with that, but then they decided to change only one device. First thing I did export, and then I did delete account.
I mean,
second thing I did, I went to GitHub. I searched for Bitwarden RS, and I installed it on my server. And now I have my own Bitwarden-based password manager, local.
The only password manager that I've ever really used is just the standard pass command. And
I mean, pass works.
Yeah,
it's just
it just encrypts your passwords locally.
Do you get to have it on your Android tablet? No, so then
you could actually, I mean, if you use something like Nextcloud or whatever, you could actually sync your database to a cloud service if that's what you needed to do.
Yeah, that's too much work.
What you could do, when you use the pass command, you specify a directory on your system to store the passwords. That directory could be your Nextcloud directory, for example.
That's too much work.
Yeah, but I own that directory. I own that Nextcloud server.
That's too janky, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I never need passwords on my phone. I don't do.
Well, you don't even have to use Nextcloud for that. You can just use SyncThing because SyncThing is available on iOS and Android.
I never enter a password on my phone though. I know that sounds crazy. I never.
I do because sometimes I don't want to pull out my laptop when I have to check something.
Yeah. I don't enter passwords on this thing either.
Yeah.
When I'm out and about, I'm just walking. I have to check something, whether it be on some random ass email or on some dashboard for some server, which happens more than you think.
Yeah.
When you have too many servers, you just get a call. Can you please set up a new username for yada yada yada, and you're walking on a sidewalk, and can you do it now?
Yeah.
I don't want to pull out my laptop. I just pull out my phone, I log into that, and that's it. Really hard.
And I just got an email from Jean-Michel saying he was having internet connections. That's why he kept dropping out.
Oh.
So, which I can understand. Yeah. Well, I had the internet problems a lot of this past month because of that snowstorm that for about 7 or 8 days it was nasty here, and went without water for a few days, went without cable or internet for several days too.
Yeah, I had to crawl out my back window because of massive snowdrift blocked my front door.
Yeah.
Well, currently my phone has been for a couple of days saying that my secure network traffic may be monitored or modified.
Yeah.
It's been saying that. You know why he's been saying that? Because I installed a personal CA certificate that only works on my network.
Like thinking about my phone, I can't remember the last time I entered a password on it for anything. Because if it's something that requires a password, any kind of buying something or checking bank statements or anything like that, I never do that on my phone. The only things that are on my phone that require a password, I have the YouTube app. I have one of the Mastodon clients on here, but I'm automatically logged into those because you enter a password one time and it's always there. Same thing with my email. It just knows my passwords. I never actually have to enter those, but anything else that I would have to enter an email or a password to log into some service, I just don't do it on my phone.
Last one I did was entering Bitwarden password. That was a couple of days ago, right after I installed that CA certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I don't enter passwords anyway because I have a password manager.
Well, I just don't trust connections. I don't trust Wi-Fi connections. I don't trust anything over the phone.
I mean, you're a lot better than Richard Stallman in those regards, then, because Richard Stallman doesn't even pull up a web browser to access the internet.
I'll view the internet, but if it's something I got to log into, like if I got to log into, I don't know, my bank or my PayPal or even my Patreon account, anything, I'm not going to do that on my phone. I'll just wait till I get home to.
That's why I have SSL. It's a secure connection because of SSL.
Yeah, my complaint about doing that with the banks though is that my local bank is actually going online only, and they're actually closing their physical location.
Yeah, a lot of banks are doing that where you have to do online banking, but still, if you have a desktop computer at home, I mean that's probably where you want to do that stuff. If you got to pay your bills or something, don't do that over the phone.
They're going mobile app only. They don't have a.
They don't have a website.
You go to their website. They tell you to download the application to manage your accounts.
Wow, you need to change your web host. You need to change your bank. You've got a lot of work to do, Josh.
I do, in fact, have a lot of work to do. I'm just too lazy about it.
I think my bank still has a location near me, but based on the fact that I haven't been at my bank for probably years now.
He said his bank is getting rid of physical locations. You can't go to a branch and get money.
Nope.
Well, I haven't been in a branch and got money for quite a while. The last time I had been in a bank was because I had to go and change my account because I was getting too old.
Yeah. And somebody in the chat is asking me why don't I use Mud or NeoMud. I've used NeoMud many times I've been a NeoMud user for years. But right now I wouldn't use it is because I'm an Emacs user, and I use MU4E inside Emacs. It's much better than Mud. But sometimes you need a proper graphical email client, especially if somebody's sending you HTML emails. They just look nicer in a graphical client. But if it's just standard plain text, like your cousin emailing you, what they did the past month since last time you heard from them, yeah, that's fine. Reading an email like that, but everything's HTML emails now.
I have a question for you. You said going to bank to get money.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a machine called ATM?
Well,
yes.
I would assume that most ATMs here in the U.S. are at the actual branch of the bank anyway.
You see them basically everywhere.
Yeah, but you have to pay
Here's
for
my
a fee
frustration
if you don't
with
go
ATMs.
to the ATMs that are owned by your bank is the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I only see ATMs owned by my bank. The one I normally go to is on a fire station.
Yeah.
On a front wall of fire station, basically. I put a card in, I type my PIN code, and that's it. I get my money out.
I mean, there's probably 24 different banks in my city, and you get charged fees for using another bank's ATM. So you want to go to your bank's ATM, and if they don't have branches, they don't have ATM machines, that kind of sucks because you're paying fees for taking money out of somebody else's ATM.
Basically, you have 6 banks, and they're basically cities are littered with ATMs.
Well, how it works now is that if I was to get a withdrawal from an ATM, I have to get the receipt, and I have to mail the receipt into the banking location, and then they refund me at the end of the month.
That's crazy. That is just crazy.
Yep.
What bank is this? Is it a national bank that everybody would know?
No, it is not.
Oh, that's what
it's
I
a
thought.
It's a local community bank.
Yeah.
I have a national bank account. I just go to the nearest fire station. I put a card in and get money out.
Somebody's asking about how to use GitLab. DT has a great video on setting up a GitLab server on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, when he says how to use GitLab, if you're just asking how to set up a GitLab account, you just sign up, give a username and a password.
If you want to have a GitLab server, I recommend going to their website and seeing how to set up, because it is
their documentation is actually really good.
Sudo docker run and some arguments and you're done.
I'm assuming
don't use Docker. Don't use Docker. Don't use that proprietary crap that runs as root. Use Podman.
I'm assuming since it's such
reality is you should use Kubernetes anyway. So
I'm assuming since it's such a basic question, how do I use GitLab? They're not asking about a server. They're probably really asking how do they use Git. Is probably what they're asking. Check out some videos. Git is complicated. I'm not gonna lie. As far as
in reality,
the command line,
you need to know three Git commands or 4: Git pull, Git push,
Git clone,
Git add,
Git
Git clone, and that's it.
I use Git status a lot because sometimes
Git commit. 5 Git commit is the last one. That's all you really need until you go deep in it.
Yeah.
I've actually quit using the Git command line in favor of just what VS Code offers.
Well, I don't like what VS Code offers, really. I recommend Git Kraken.
Yeah, I recommend Maggot inside Emacs, but that's just
yeah.
me.
But if you just grab VS Codium, it's all open source and free.
Well, if you want a good open source, like really open source text editor, graphical, you know what you should try? Eclipse Thea. It's a fork of VS Code.
Oh well, that's why it's so good.
Yeah, that's the only thing, and the only reason it's so good is because it's basically a web client.
No.
Run it in the web on a server, and that's the only reason I like it.
Yeah, the GitLab guy, if you're brand new to Git and GitLab, sign up for an account, and then somewhere on GitLab after you create an account, you can create a new repository. Create a new GitLab repository, name it whatever you want. And then it's going to be an empty repository. The only thing that's going to be in it is a README file, but the README file is just going to be an empty file. Then you need to go on your Linux box, assuming you're on Linux, git clone that empty repository, that new repository you just made, so it's on your system. Put some files in it that you want to eventually push to your new GitLab repository. It's not that hard.
Nope.
So, new topic if you want.
Okay.
I went to thispersondoesnotexist.com, generated a photo.
Yep.
Downloaded it, uploaded to how-old.net, took the picture and gave an H to it. Then I went into the Linux terminal and entered rig, and it generates a name and address. So it's call me Letitia Lee, 146 Spring Country Road, Athens, Georgia, age 36.
I've actually played with that command line program before. It's really neat, especially if you need to create a lot of fake names and addresses, maybe for an example of something, for a document or a video. You don't want to use real people's names and addresses or something, but you want to have an example of something, maybe comma separated values of names and addresses or something. Yeah, there's neat little command line programs that'll generate stuff like that for you.
I went to another website, generated a MasterCard account and an ID online. Not a valid syntactic, not valid, usable on it. So you can generate quite a bit of fake ID out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's real world uses why you need that sometimes. So that's neat that somebody has created programs that'll do that for you.
Yeah, the problem with those is that a lot of these websites, especially like the storefront websites that you would create these fake accounts for, if you ever need to do an account recovery, they're asking for like real world information, like your driver's like a
Yeah.
scanned copy of your driver's license.
That is so problematic from security
Yeah.
standpoint. Or like for example, the most ironic one is asking for your birthday.
Yeah.
Not just public information, private information that basically everybody knows. I can tell you right now that I had a birthday like a couple of weeks ago.
Here in the U.S., if you can
And you
get a
have
birthday and
already
like a
know.
hometown, you can almost exactly guess somebody's social security number too.
Yeah, here you can guess our basically our equivalent of social security number.
Wow.
You not just guess, you know it. You know 99% of it. There are three numbers you don't know. Out of 24, 3 numbers you don't know because they are absolutely random, based on how which person in the order you were born that day or that month or something like that.
Yep.
So it isn't actually that random.
Yeah, if you guys want to learn a little bit more about that, CGP Grey has a wonderful video on social security cards.
Who?
CGP Grey.
CGP Grey. Is that a YouTube
Yep.
channel?
That is a YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit of an older video. It's something like about a year and a half or so old. Something like that. But you got to think about it, like when Social Security first became like a thing in America, it was during the 1940s, and at the time, it was never intended to be a secure number to start with.
Yeah.
It's just an address for your Social
It's an
Security
identification number.
Yeah.
It's an ID number. It's supposed to be public.
Yep.
Well,
And it's really just like everything else. It's just like, hey, there's a handy dandy number that everybody in America is assigned. We don't have anything in the form of a, like an ID number for all the citizens of our nation outside of it. So let's just tie everything to that.
Well, everything invented prior to like the late 1990s when the web was starting to become popular, they never really thought about the world we live in today, where everything is a security risk.
But the most ironic security risk or using security was if any one of you heard of the car Nissan Leaf.
Yes.
It's an electric car. It has some cloud functionality, aka you can turn on the heating and stuff like that from your phone, and it used a public number as a key for the API as basically the last part of the get command. Guess what it was? A VIN number.
Wow.
Vehicle identification number. A number that you have written on, on
got
every
a strip on the car. Right.
On the car, please hack them. I listened to Troy Hunt talk about that.
Somebody is talking about terminal note-taking apps. I just use Vim.
There's a lot of them.
I don't use note-taking apps.
Yeah, I don't.
And if I want to write them down, I use VS Code.
I'm not a note taker myself, but obviously Vim, if you wanted a Vim plugin, Vim Wiki is a really neat, like personal wiki, but you could use it for note taking and stuff. Org mode and Emacs, of course, is got a ton of different things.
That's basically what it's built for.
Yeah. But strictly command line, not editor stuff. Task Warrior is one that a lot of people like. It's a task and note-taking application that's command line. There's so many of them, I can't think of them. CalCurse is another command line. It's like you set your calendar and appointments and everything at the command line. That's one I've actually installed and played with in the past. It's not bad. Pretty easy to use.
Yeah.
There's a Python program called Cal, Khal, that's similar. It's a appointment and note-taking kind of application. Well, there's just a few that off the top of my head I could name. I bet the Arch Wiki has a page dedicated to note-taking apps, though, if you did a search in the wiki.
I think it's in the list of applications.
Yeah, they have a gigantic page called List of Applications, and they break it down by category, and I'm sure there's a note-taking section in that.
Yeah, let me look for it. Let's see. Note-taking software. We have a breakdown of console and graphical. GeekNote, Hierarchical Notebook, otherwise known as HMB, Org Mode, T-Note, VimWiki for all your console options, and there's way too many GUI options.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do if you're really into note taking, you're probably gonna implement it into your editor of choice anyway.
Yeah,
probably.
I personally just use Vim. I write everything down in Markdown, and then I save it to a Git repo.
No, if you're gonna do command line note taking, it only makes sense really if you're using Vim, because then you could always just pipe it into a terminal editor like Vim or Nano. But if you're using a GUI editor, then I don't know why you would want a command line note taking app. That's just me, though.
I mean, we're all just boomers here.
Yeah,
that's all.
Well, I'm pretty young for a boomer.
That said,
23.
This thing here that I bought from the dollar store for $1 is still a better note-taking app than anything else I've ever used.
I actually use little notepads like that. I keep one right here next to my desk with a pen that I just jot down things. And
I even have this one with a fancy strap on it. It's 100% recycled.
Yeah. After switching to Emacs, I created like a little note-taking directory for my org documents. I was like, I'm going to start practicing taking notes for stuff, for show notes or things on my computer, just to get in the habit of taking notes to see what the deal is, because I've never been a note-taking person. I did that for a couple of months, and then I just quit, and I've got this directory of notes, and I was looking through it the other day. I was like, why did I take notes about this? I don't need these notes. I was just taking notes to be taking notes.
Well, Joshua, on me being a boomer, I was called the youngest boomer ever a couple of times.
The youngest boomer ever.
Yeah.
I am quote unquote one of them millennials, but apparently I'm not a real millennial because I don't drink that much coffee.
Yeah, I am apparently one of the last generations that were still millennials. And just to tell, I haven't drunk a drop of coffee in my life.
Wow, that's not a boomer then.
Nope.
Just whiskey.
No, a boomer's got to drink Rockstar or Monster or something, with crazy amounts of caffeine. All right, looking at some of the stuff I've done here recently, do you guys just use lists as your man pager?
No.
I don't use man pages at all.
I use Vim.
Vim? That's what I was.
I do something similar to what you did, but I'm mouse oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote a bash function called M instead of man.
Right.
I would do ls. It would pipe it into the function, which would look for a TLDR on my system. If it finds one, and put that in a file. It will then do cheat and concatenate cheat to it, and then -- help and concatenate that, and then finally man and concatenate that, and it will save it in temp/ls. I open that in the text editor. It'll open a new tab, and it'll have all that stuff in there, and you can scroll it, and it opens it in the background, so you can still use your terminal. You can have a split screen with your terminal on the left, the text editor on the right. You can scroll up and down for all the stuff in there and use it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could do it for MDD if you wanted, or M whatever you want. You could have a whole series of tabs. It won't open a new text editor. If the text editor is active, it knows it opens a new tab, not to open a new instance of the text editor. So you've got a bunch of tabs on the top that you can refer to whatever you're doing. It's good for complex things like xargs or xlf.
Right.
Yeah.
I
have actually found scripts that would actually take all the man pages installed on your system, port them into Markdown documents, and then you could just take those Markdown documents, put them into your Hugo directory, and just publish your own static website of just all the man pages on your system.
I've thought about doing something like that. Another thing, other than converting them into Markdown, what I did one time is I converted them into PDF, just so I could view them in Zathura or whatever PDF viewer, just because they look nicer. You can zoom in and out. The text is more readable. if you don't want to read something, especially if you're going to be reading for a while, it's a kind of detailed man page. Sometimes it's nice just to have that in a PDF instead of reading text in the terminal.
The other thing I did is, if you don't want man pages, but if you want some web pages for, say, MZF, and you want, say, get 10 web pages to see what other people are doing, normally you'd have to go into your web browser, your DuckDuckGo, enter your Linux FZF, you get a bunch of links, and you have to manually open each link. Go down the first one, right-click open, second right-click open. There's a way to do it automatically in a single line in your terminal. You download DDGR, and you put, which is DuckDuckGo, which is similar to Googler, and then you do -X, Linux ZFs, pipe it to grep, HTTP, pipe it to Xargs, and then Firefox. It'll bring up Firefox with 10 links with ZFS already open for you. So you don't have to manually go in and pick each one up.
Yeah. Are you doing that with like a D menu script, or are you just doing it in the terminal itself?
You can do it in the terminal, but I made a one-line bash script where you pass $1 for the search term.
Okay.
And then you can run it from that. You can do it with anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty neat. Yeah, I've played around. I haven't done any of that stuff lately, but I used to play around with different ways to display man pages on the system because it's fun. It's easy little scripting to do too if you're interested in a simple little project to learn some simple bash scripting. Figure out how to manipulate the man pages on your system.
Yeah. I created a bash alias to open things into Vim. I didn't quite do it like you because I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I've actually been using a alias I created called vman to open web pages in Vim.
Yeah. Well, then
yours is a lot better.
Well, it's easier because you don't actually have to, CD or ls around and find the exact man page on the system. Just man, name a command works as long as you export your man pager to be whatever editor or viewer you want. And some of those exports, it took me a while to figure out some of those, like figuring out how to get NeoVim as a man pager. It's easy now, but a few years ago, it was hard to make NeoVim work as a man pager. Now, because people have asked them about it, they have this really simple one-liner that's only, like yay long. You just export that, it works. But used to, you had to jump through some hoops. Getting Emacs to work as your man pager, I've played with that before. That's hard too, especially if you're going to do the Emacs client. You have to get kind of creative with what you're exporting in that command. But again, I don't know why you really want Emacs as your man pager. Emacs has man and woman built into it.
Why you need man pages anyway?
Oh, I use them all the time. In my Emacs, I have man, I think is built in, but I installed woman pages, which are, I guess, a better man page. I also installed TLDR for a plugin inside Emacs because sometimes the TLDR pages are a lot easier because sometimes you don't really need to read the man page. It's, this thing has a certain command that most people run, but you forget the exact syntax, and TLDR is great for that because it just gives you like 10 or 12 example little snippets of code for a command.
The reason I initially didn't use TLDR is because it builds an index, and if you don't have, it's not in the index, it decides to rebuild the index and takes about 20 seconds. So if you make a typo or it's not in the index, you sit there for 20 seconds. Yeah. So it's written in Node.js. So I went through in the source code and I commented out that code and issued a return code, process exit 1, so I can run it from a script now instead of having to do that, and it saves a lot of work. And I don't know Node.js, but you don't really
I don't
have
either.
to. You don't have to. You just look for an if statement says calculating index, and then you see an if block, and you comment out the if block. So you can do a fair bit without knowing code. You can do a fair bit of it.
Yeah. Other than BigPod, none of us here are JavaScript developers. So.
Not me either.
I know
I don't know
console.
any JavaScript.
My node is console.log hello world. That's it.
I know how to do hello world in about 15 different languages.
Yeah.
Just right?
Yeah.
So,
That's it.
all right, guys. Well, we're coming up at the end of the 2-hour mark, and let's get a final word in from everybody that's still here on the stream. Mike, are you there, sir? I don't know if he's got his microphone working or.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening to you folks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Well, Mike, take a minute or two and give us something on our way out here.
I just bought myself a new Windows machine. I'm sure you guys are just keen on that.
What kind of machine?
A Dell XPS 137390.
Wow.
It came with 16 gig of memory, 1512 SSD, an NVMe version.
Man, I would love to have one of those, but they are not cheap.
Right now, if you don't mind the Windows Microsoft 10 Home, you can get it for $800.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't keep Windows on it. I would install Linux, but still, $800 isn't too bad. That's reasonably priced. Yeah.
It came out more like $1,400. It's a 2019, late 2019 machine. So
yeah, that's what they're pricing. Yeah, the new models is $13.99, I believe. I haven't looked at it lately though.
Yeah, this has got a pretty fast i7, 6 cores, 12 threads.
Nice.
It's pretty fast and it's real light. Screen's only 16 by 9. I wish it was 16 by 10, but it's about 2.7 pounds. So, and the battery lasts forever.
Yeah, because
anyway, I recommend that.
Well, it's one of the ones that's always been on my radar because at some point I do want to buy a nice laptop, like one that I can actually do real work on, because I've got several laptops. I've got 3 or 4 laptops, here, but they're old stuff, just cheap machines that I use for distro hopping and just playing around in. But what if I wanted to edit a video on a laptop? I couldn't do that on these things. It would just laugh at me if I tried to do something like that. So, yeah, the Dell XPS is one I definitely would love to have.
Yeah, the 7390, like I say, it's a late 2019 machine, and there's lots of videos out there. There's even some that show them doing some video encoding.
Right.
So it's a fairly fast processor. So I recommend it for the price. I mean, it's a lot cheaper than everything else I looked at that had 16 gig.
Is 16 gigs the max you could put on it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's all soldered in there.
I mean, 16 gigs is still plenty, but yeah, I hate that. Yeah, that so many machines are maxed out at 16.
Well, then you need to go to the MacBook Air and get yourself the 8 gig machine that apparently with the M1 processor doesn't need 16 gig of memory.
Yeah.
No, get the MacBook.
I'm sure you're all over that with an M1 processor.
I would.
I'm still expandable.
Yeah.
I could go all the way up to 120 if I want.
Yeah, I think I would buy the Dell machine before I buy the Mac. But
all right, check it out.
All right, thanks, Mike. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hey, Murray, you got a last word for us, sir?
Yeah, well, I got my future mapped out for me. I've been looking at Elixir and Erlang, and I looked at it. I looked at them a few years ago, and only had one machine, and it's sort of distributed processing. I've got 4 network computers at home now, so it makes a little more sense. So I downloaded Erlang source, compiled it, and put it in an app image. I just had to make one tweak from an absolute path to relative, and then I downloaded the binary for Elixir, and it needs Erlang, so I put that in the app image and made sure it knows it. So it works. I got it working inside an app image, and I can copy the app image from one computer to another and have identical environment. And I can run the REPLs from the app image, both Erlang and Elixir, and I can do the compile from source to bytecode, all from the to that. And I kind of like the functional programming and distributed part of it. Matches my temperament. So as soon as I can, I'm going to be spending several months on that, I think. So I'll see how that works for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
That'll keep going.
So you learn all these different programming languages. I thought you were a Python guy, but how many different?
I tinker with a lot of languages.
Okay.
I know that I'm not a Python developer, but I know enough to take other people's code and use it. Like there's TGGS in Python, which is pip install TGGS, and that is a text to speech application. You type in some text, it sends it up to Google. Google converts it to an MP3 and brings it back down. So I can write a little function to generate text, do that, and save it in a standard location. So I can tinker with things like that. Here it is. I'm in IPython. It's going text to MP3.
DistroTube rocks.
No.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. So I can tinker with that with Python like that, and
Well,
and I've done one Electron app. I tried Go for a few years ago, and I didn't like it. In Go, you have to have, if you define a variable and don't use it, it won't compile. So I was always commenting out code and then putting it back in and commenting code, and the error messaging was too low level and detailed. So I stay away from Go. I didn't try Rust, but Rust is similar. It's detailed and thorough. If you're doing the next Martian rover or something, it's kind of good. But I prefer the Python kind of stuff where it's more abstract, and that's why I like Elixir too. So I have JavaScript, done some JavaScript, a little bit of everything until I find something wrong with it. Done small talk and things like that. So yeah, I've been exposed to a lot of languages.
Cool. All right, Murray. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Big Pod, have you got some Microsoft news to send us out with, or whatever you want to share with us?
Well, during next month, there is Microsoft Ignite conference. Well, you said you have to do Microsoft news. So that's the only news about Microsoft I know about.
Do you ever jump on any or listen to their conference calls or anything when they have any kind of announcements?
No. I may, if I do, I watch their proper conferences they have for like developers and stuff like that, like their build conference, their Ignite conference they have, where they would have a bunch of people in the room, but now they have them online. But another piece of news I wanted to say: next week I'll be writing some code on stream.
Okay.
So maybe come check me out.
Are you writing Python, or what are you doing?
I'm writing C# on Linux. So that will be fun.
It will be. I can't wait. Do you have a date on that, or you just
most likely tomorrow or on Tuesday?
Yeah, because I may try to check some of that out too. That'll be fun. I don't think I know anything about C#, so it will be really interesting for me to check some of that out.
It's Microsoft.
Yeah, of course.
But good one. Good language.
All right.
I recommend.
All right. Thanks, Big Bud. Josh, send us out with something.
Send you out with something? Well, when it comes down to cheap USB devices, especially peripherals, I have remembered my love for the Logitech brand. I have picked up this trackball mouse. It is amazing. I've got this mouse. It's amazing. I've got this keyboard because sometimes you don't want to use Dvorak. And then I've got the Dvorak keyboard. And then I've got like this thing. And then I ran out.
Yeah.
But they all work flawlessly.
I do like the Logitech mice. The keyboards are all right.
Yeah.
I don't hate them. So
this is the cheap keyboard.
Right.
So it's going to be terrible. But it works.
Yeah.
And like that keyboard that I just threw behind me, I've had that keyboard for 7 years, and it works. And it was a $10 keyboard back then, and it's a $5 keyboard now.
Yeah.
But
what model?
K120.
Yay! I also have K120.
But anyways, if you get one of these trackball mice and you use DWM, install the warp patch.
Okay.
Use warp.
I know amazing. The warp patch. Yeah. Interesting enough, I've always used the Logitech wireless mice, and it got to the point where I just hated fooling with the dongles and changing batteries and things like that. I miss the old school mouse that you plugged in.
I'll be honest.
Recently, I went and got a wired mouse, and I just love the thing.
I wish I could get the wire with this thing.
Yeah.
I never really cared about the wire.
Yeah.
I bought myself a pack of batteries like 2 years ago. I still have one.
But the thing is that like this is a cheap mouse that I can install and do whatever the heck I want with on Linux. And it just works no matter what.
Yeah, but the problem is it got to the point where everything was wireless. Your keyboard's wireless, your mouse is wireless. Yeah. It's too much wireless going on. Now I've converted everything back to being plugged in. My keyboard's wired, my mouse is wired, everything.
Next keyboard I have will be wireless as well. It will be I don't know, basically the wireless model of K120.
Unlike you, all my audio equipment is on the desk right in front of me.
Yeah.
So I've got wireception going on. Yeah. Like, in order for me to like pick up like this pen right here, I have to pull it out from underneath like 6 different wires.
Well,
so like,
if I want to plug in
wireless is a lifesaver for now.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't have any more USB plugs in my laptop, so I would have to get a hub to plug in anything else.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about Logitech because they have the unifying receiver. So I have a mouse, a keyboard, and another mouse that all use the same receiver.
Yeah.
I have my headphones, my keyboard plugged in. I have my mouse plugged in, and that's it for the USB holes in my laptop. I do have one USB Type-C that doesn't work.
I have everything wired except my laptop that I take outside, and that has a wireless mouse. But
yeah.
I like wired.
Okay, I have a Type-C on my desktop case here, but my motherboard does not support Type-C, so it's not even plugged into anything.
Well,
and then
I do have wired connection to internet.
You guys are all going wireless, and I was full wireless, and I'm going the other direction now. I'm trying to plug in as much as I can now.
Important part is I'm not going full wireless. You will never see me throw away my Ethernet cable. That thing is awesome.
I will never do. That.
Oh no,
I'm always going to be Ethernet for this machine. Yeah.
I had to buy a Wi-Fi antenna when I got the Lemur Pro because I was actually frustrated that it didn't have an Ethernet port.
Well, guys, let me get to my last word because obviously I need to thank you guys for being here. We had some other folks on the stream earlier too. Actually, we had several people here earlier that dropped out. I know a couple of them were having internet issues. So thanks to those guys for joining us on stream. Thanks to the guys too that are still hanging out in the YouTube chat. Because I know we've got a whole bunch of people still hanging out in the chat, Serge and Peter and all you guys. Appreciate you guys hanging out. I also need to thank the patrons that couldn't be here. So these names I'm going to show you on the screen here. These are all my patrons. I do appreciate each and every one of those ladies and gentlemen for helping support my work. And other than that, let's all wave bye to the YouTube chat.